Ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again for punishing dumb-ass openings. And hold on to your hats, boys and girls, because this doesn't take long. Played this game this morning, my opponent's in the 1400s. Right? 1430, 1440, right? It's a 15 plus 10 rapid, okay? And this happens. Check this out, right? So I've got the black pieces. My opponent's got the white pieces. Starts with e4. I play the Scandinavian. And place your bets. Okay? Now, in the Scandinavian, the best move by white is to capture the pawn, right? There are other options that we will look at, okay? And my opponent left me speechless with the move Queen e2. So, and then I'm like, what is this? This is like a kind of backwards Scandinavian, because it's almost like, you know, the most common approach is pawn takes here and then black throws his queen out and then gets kicked by a knight, right? But here, it's like white's going, aha, I'm going to trick you by turning the tables. And I'm going to anti-Scandi you. So okay, you're on. Okay, and then queen takes that. And it's like melting my head, because I'm like, I'm playing a Scandinavian now, but the wrong way round. And then I'm trying to figure out, literally, is this, the board is flipped over, right? Yeah? So anyway, obviously, well, when you play the Scandinavian, which you normally play as black. Okay, so look, the normal thing is, right, if there's normal line, queen out here, then the queen's knight comes out to hit, right? So it is different, okay? There, queen takes, and now it's the king's knight that comes out. So it's not the same. Anyway, so white's put his queen in the middle of the board and can't go all the way to there. Okay, so time for just a couple more moves. Queen retreats here. Okay, so what would you do in this situation, right? It's kind of tempting to throw the bishop out, hit the queen, but that's not really convincing, because then f3 comes and you just have to move your bishop, because that comes with tempo. It did cross my mind. I thought, look, if he moves Freddie, it's not going to end too well. I just bring up my other knight, just calmly, right? And I'm thinking, okay, I have an edge at this point, because, yeah, my opponent, I think, has wasted time. He's moved his queen now 3 times in 4 moves. Once, you know, twice to grab the pawn, and another time to go back. Okay, so I now have the initiative. I now have the white pieces. He now pushes g3, which is not great, right? So now I figure, because this is different. See, previously, if I put my bishop out here, yeah, and he pushes f3, you know, that pawn would be defended by pawn, queen, knight. But I think, okay, let's throw the bishop in now, right? Because if he pushes Freddie now, he's really weakened this king side, yeah? If he brings the knight out, he's pinning his own knight, right? Otherwise, his queen's going to have to come back out into the board again. So he's only really got 2 options. He's got knight blocks, pawn blocks. Otherwise, it's queen out into the board. And this board is already looking, you know, quite dangerous for a queen. There's a lot of places where she can't step, yeah? So anyway, my opponent plays this, and there's only one more move in the entire game. Right? The final move is knight to d4. And I'm double attacking this knight, which is also pinned. I'm attacking the queen. I'm attacking the c2 pawn, which would come with a fork on king and rook. And I'm just utterly flabbergasted. My opponent now resigns with 15 minutes and 28 seconds on the clock. So he's actually gained 28 seconds with his 10-second increment in that complete debacle. Right, so let's go back to the start. Let's flip the board. Let's see this from white's perspective, okay? Normal opening, the Scandinavian. Now, what's important from this is, why is it a dumb-ass opening? right? What are we trying to do in the opening? Right? The whole purpose of the opening of the game is to get yourself into a chess game where we're starting to play chess, right? Without already being at a massive disadvantage. And you will be at a disadvantage if you blunder material. You will also be at a disadvantage if you don't control the board. Okay, so the purpose of development is to control the board. So let's look at the start of the game, right? Which squares does white control? Okay, controls all of these at the start of the game, right? They are all controlled by pawns and also by the knights, right? All these pieces here, all they're doing is protecting pawns right now. That's all they get to do at the start of the game. Now, what we're trying to do when we develop is to get our pieces into positions where they are controlling more of the board. So, move 1, okay, we're controlling all of these, yeah, and with this bishop, all of them, and with a queen, these, and with a pawn, these two. So you can see with one move, right, we've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, an extra 7 squares, of which 5 are in your opponent's half of the board. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that, you know, for example, from playing here, if my opponent, for example, plays pawn to b5, which would be stupid, look, I'm controlling that square. I can capture the pawn. Okay. So that's the point of development. You want to get your minor pieces into the board and also particularly control the center. Now this is the center, these 4 squares. Okay. So when you move a knight to here, you're controlling these 2 squares. When you move this knight to here, you're controlling these 2 squares. You've got control of the center. So very often you move your central pawns, both of them, if you can, control these squares. These are squares where your opponent wants to put his stuff. Okay, now, going back to here, so it's gone pale because I've made a change, right? Black plays this. So black is now controlling these squares, white is controlling these squares. So we have kind of tension here, yeah? Tension between these 2 pawns, but otherwise fairly normal. So what white needs to do is to control the board. Now white is also controlling these, so we'll assume that the whole third rank is fine. Okay, so in addition to the third rank, let's say we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 squares controlled, right? Now white now plays this, because he's a dumbass, right? Oh, and that one, of course, right? And he's controlling exactly the same squares that he was controlling before. Exactly the same ones, the same 10 squares. Right, so he's achieved nothing at all. Plus, look at this bishop, right? He's now undone the advantage of playing e4, right? Why do we play e4? e4 to control the center, right? To release the queen and to release the light squared bishop. Suddenly, we're controlling a bunch of squares, right? Now, if you're a dumbass and you do this, suddenly this bishop is not controlling anything, right? He's improved his situation in no way at all. The only thing he's done is defended this pawn, which I take. And then he has to bring his queen out to the board, right? Then his queen gets hit. His queen retreats. So again, he's actually now controlling fewer squares than he was before. But my knight is controlling these and these. Okay? And these are 2 squares where the queen now can't go as well, right? So now I bring out another knight and look, I've got control over those 2 and those 2 in the center and that 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 because of my bishop. Okay? And he's got the same thing. So he's already behind in the game. This is the point. Yeah? So that's why it's a dumbass opening. So anyway, so you just thought we'd just go over, well, why? Why do we say bring the pawns out into the middle? Why do we say develop our pieces, right? We want to control squares. And when you control squares, those are squares where your opponent may not be able to place their pieces, right? And may not be able to advance up the board, right? So the more squares you control, the fewer options your opponent has, and the more options you have because you've got more protected squares where you can put your stuff, right? So the more squares you control, the more squares are safe for you but dangerous for them. And that gives you lots and lots of choices. Okay, so I just thought we'd have a little look at this. And so now in the Explorer, I thought, well, have I ever faced this before? And apparently, yes. So if I played the Scandinavian, this is me as black, and obviously I've played it a bunch of times. So I've played the Scandinavian with E5, D5. It's actually my most common response historically. In all games, right, 2, 1, E4. I've played the Scandi a lot. 2,295 games, and I've won 52% of them. Okay, so with this, how many times has my opponent done that? Okay, let's look down this. Ooh, yeah, it's here, Queen E2. 3 times, and I've only managed to win 2 of those games. So one of those games, somehow I lost, which is very interesting. Okay, but yeah, it has been played, but very, very rarely, and for good reason. So then I thought, well, let's pull it up on Lichess. Here it is on Lichess. Okay, now the Scandinavian, and so I'll just show you the settings, all the ratings in the player's database, and I've ignored bullet and hyper bullet stuff. So this is Blitz, rapid, and kind of classical. All right, so this, so the Scandinavian has been played with D5 10.8 million times, right? The most common are King's Pawn, Sicilian, and French, and then the Scandi coming in 4th place with 10.8 million games. Now, Queen to E2, has it been played here? I do not see it on the list. Let's scroll down. No, I don't even see it on the Lichess list. Okay, let's play the move. Maybe it just limits the ones that you see. Okay, and now here, the most common move by a country mile, D takes E4, and black is already winning 59% of games, and white wins 37. Okay, so kind of similar to the 2-1 that I found. So this, and it's already, now it's 60%, provided black remembers to capture the pawn, right? Queen takes, knight f6, yeah. So, you know, you almost got a 2 out of 3 chance of just winning this game from this point, and that is why you shouldn't be a complete and total dumbass in your openings. So that's it. I mean, what was going through my opponent's head, I have absolutely no idea. But, you know, doesn't matter, I'll take the points. So, yeah, interesting one today. So I woke up early in the morning, like 4 in the morning or something like that, and couldn't get back to sleep. So I pulled out the tablet and decided I will study some games and play some games. And so I started on 15 plus 10 rapid. And interestingly, someone's put in the comments, if you're on a slide, if you're on a big tilt, stop playing the 10-minute games. And here's something that's interesting, right? If we go back to chess.com, I'm going to look at my my own numbers, right, on stats. Now, my Blitz rating is 1250 right now, okay? My rapid rating is 1441, so I've actually gained 50 points overnight, okay? So here's my Blitz rating. My highest peak is about 1473, but I would say, you know, my kind of typical, if I'm doing all right, it's high 1300s, about 1350. Seems to be my kind of, you know, sometimes I'll overperform that, but it seems like, yeah, that's roughly, 1350 to 1400 is a kind of a good level for me, right? 1350 to 1400. In rapid, if I switch to that, I've been climbing and climbing and climbing from, you know, 1100, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I hit 15 a few times. But it seems now that you know, it's something like this, around 1500 is kind of the middle of my bell curve right now. So when I'm performing quite well, I'll be around 1500. and if I, do really well, I'm moving towards 1600, right? And if I have a massive tilt, then I can drop down to 1400, as I have done recently. Okay, so this is what's interesting. So my kind of typical performance level in Rapid currently is around the 1500 mark, but in Blitz it's around the 1300 to 1400 mark. Now, what was I doing to drop from 1591, which I hit at one point there, down to 1390? How did I lose 200 rating points in a matter of days? Well, I was playing 10-minute Rapid. But it's not just that I was playing 10-minute Rapid. Okay. Now, on one level, 10-minute Rapid it's closer to 5-minute Blitz. I never really play 3-minute Blitz. It's closer to 5-minute Blitz than it is to 15 plus 10. 15 plus 10 is a very, very different animal. Okay. So, if I'm going to play 10-minute games, you might argue that I'm going to tend more towards my kind of Blitz performance. And my Blitz performance is that I would, be about between 1300, 1400, right? Depending. And that's exactly what happened, right? I dropped down to between 1300 and 1400 pretty quickly because I was playing those 10-minute games. But here's the key. I was playing 10-minute games as though I was playing Blitz, right? I was getting frustrated. I was feeling like the universe owes me some elo, right? And that's just not the case. Yeah, I thought I've got to get an easy ride. I've got to get some easy wins. I've got to get a load of Vienna Gambits in and pick up some cheap points. And I was playing too fast, and I wasn't taking my time, and I wasn't grinding it out, and I wasn't willing to do everything it took to win those games. Whereas this morning, middle of the night, it's all dark, everyone's asleep, there's all the time in the world. So I played, some games, like 1 or 2 were quite quick, and others I had to sit and grind it out, right? Even one with somebody rated like 1300 and odd, and there were only like 4 or 5 points on the line, but I ground it out, and it took half an hour. But, so, whoever said that in the chat, you're absolutely right, And here's the thing. When I play a longer time format and use my time, then it seems as though I perform better than when I play quick time formats. Now, you may be the other way around, but the point of this conversation is to say that we all have our individual differences and propensities, right? So that's what I've realized. So what I'm going to commit to now, in order to build my way up to 1600, is just play a few games, and they're going to be 15 plus 10. So the increment is useful there, yeah? And give it my complete attention. If I'm not giving it my complete attention, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to study. I'm going to do something else. Now, there's something else that I didn't do in all of those days, right? Yes, so I would have a glass of wine in the evening beforehand. I've been drinking coffee the last few days, right? And when I hit that 1591, you see these days, you see this ramp here going up? Yeah, those days, I was off the alcohol and off the coffee, and because the two work hand in hand. And I hit my highest ever peak. So, that's the thing about chess, right? Yes, it's a game, and yes, we should be enjoying ourselves, but you can use it to discover so much about yourself. And I've been enjoying this, so thank you for listening to, me blather on about that. But had to share that little one with you because it's just too much fun otherwise. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.